Hey guys, Amber here. Want to make this video short and sweet and get right to the point so you guys can start getting on your healing journey, as am I. We'll be doing it alongside each other. First things first, let's talk about symptoms, and then we're going to talk about doctors. Symptoms that you might not realize are tied to the gut. Interstitial cystitis. It's a mystery illness that I got in 2017. There is no cure for it. Doctors do not know a lot about it, but a lot of women are getting it. Men get it too, but it's very, very prevalent in women. There's a few different medications out there for it that can sometimes help. I did not find the medications helpful at all. I ended up going on an alkaline diet, which really, really helped me because anything acidic makes it much worse. And if you're not familiar with what interstitial cystitis is, it's an inflammatory condition of the bladder where the bladder wall, the lining of the bladder, is compromised, and the toxins in your bladder that you would normally eliminate seep through the bladder walls and go into the body, wreaking havoc, causing lots of inflammation, and also causing the bladder to spasm, which causes you to urinate up to 50 times a day and not fully empty, which then leads me to chronic UTIs. If you're struggling with chronic UTIs, it could be connected to your microbiome in your gut. That was something I struggled with for a really long time. I was often prescribed a drug called Macrobid. Be very cautious of this drug. Macrobid actually gave me lupus, what's called drug-induced lupus. It's common to have antibiotic resistance if you have a messed up gut microbiome, which I do, and probably many of you do too, and that's why you're watching. Lupus is not fun. I'm not going to go into the details of it. It's horrendous. Luckily, mine went away because it was simply drug-induced, but again, Macrobid is a very popular prescribed antibiotic for UTIs, for bladder infections. And if you're someone like me who would have all the symptoms, but they would never show up as, okay, yep, your urine test states that you have a UTI, that would happen to me all the time. They would say, no, it's not really conclusive that you have a UTI, but I would have all the symptoms. So they would put me on the Macrobid, and instead of my symptoms getting better, they would become exacerbated, and I would end up in the ER. Drug-induced colitis. This recently happened to me on an antibiotic that I was on called rifaximin for SIBO. SIBO is short for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. We'll talk in another episode about how to find out if you have SIBO, and likely a lot of you have it and have no idea. Slow motility, adenomyosis, which is something that happens in the uterus. I actually had a hysterectomy back in 2020 for that. Turns out I actually didn't have adenomyosis, but all the tests showed that I did. Once the uterus was out, they told me, oh, actually your uterus was perfectly fine. Sugar cravings, no appetite, feeling full all the time, but constantly gaining weight. This is a doozy, and I know it drives women crazy. I know it drove me nuts, having no appetite, feeling full all the time, and yet the scale just constantly climbing. My gynecologist she just could not understand it. She was like, how have you gained 12 pounds in 2 months and you're barely eating anything? And I was like, you got me. So frustrating. Ladies, if you have weight loss resistance, it's tied to the gut. Inflammation. I started getting inflammation in my arms and legs in 2017. I would have that lactic acid buildup that you get after you exercise. You know, you work out in the gym the next day, you're like, ooh, I'm sore, but it's kind of a good sore because you're like, oh, I know I worked these muscles really hard. No, I would get burning arms and legs 10 minutes into a dance class, 10 minutes into my exercise routine, and it became very, very difficult to exercise. I also get burning in my arms and legs, not anymore, but I used to, with one sip of wine or alcohol. So I completely cut out wine because wine is highly acidic, and wine was triggering my interstitial cystitis. So alkaline diet for those who are wine lovers and have interstitial cystitis. Sore and bleeding gums. I kept going to the dentist. They were like, you definitely have something autoimmune going on because there's nothing wrong with your teeth, but your gums are very inflamed. Fatty liver. which was caused by SIBO. If you're not a huge drinker and all of a sudden you end up with fatty liver and you're like, how is this even possible? Look into SIBO, because SIBO, when you have slow motility, the food sits in there and rots and ferments, and when it ferments, it breaks down into alcohol, and the alcohol has to be processed through your liver. Well, it gives you fatty liver, and it's like a mystery because it's like a slow thing that happens over time that you have no idea is going on. Because how many of you are getting your liver MRI'd or CAT scanned, right? Probably most of you aren't. Kidney infections. I would have all the telltale signs of a kidney infection, horrible kidney pain. I would go get an MRI. They'd be like, your kidney's fine. Or I would get blood work done and they'd be like, nothing's indicating that you have an issue with your kidney. All my blood work markers would be like on the lower side, like almost on the cusp of something being wrong. But I would have raging pain in my kidneys, and I would have flu-like symptoms like I had the infection, but I don't get fevers. So I would have all these horrible flu-like symptoms, but never a fever. And turns out it was likely my microbiome, which wreaks havoc on your organs. Which leads me to the pancreas. My pancreas is permanently damaged. For the rest of my life, I will have to take what's called Creon, which is $1,000 a bottle, by the way. It's a digestive enzyme that helps you break down fat, and I have to take it with every meal. My pancreas is permanently broken as a result of leaky gut. Autoimmune symptoms. These are our favorite, right, guys? You get autoimmune symptoms, and you go to the doctor, you go to the ER, and they're like, we don't know what's wrong. And your blood work comes back, and they're like, perfectly normal. Like, maybe you have a little bit of anemia going on, but yeah, that's what I would get all the time. And I would feel sick as a dog and just barely could get out of bed, and feeling like I wanted to just die because of how sick I felt, and constantly being told by ER departments and doctors that I was fine, and just being like, here, take this laxative and go home and you'll feel better. Yeah, no, something's definitely off in your system. You know your body. We all do, right? We all know our own bodies. We all know when something's off. Chances are it's something to do with the gut, because again, as I mentioned in my previous video, I got the mother of all tests done, which we'll talk about in another sode. But I want to keep these short and sweet and give you guys the information you need. If any of these symptoms resonate with you, if you're losing your hair, if your nails are brittle, these are fake nails, if your hair never grows. I grew my hair out for 2 years, and the longest it got was to here. It just breaks and it gets all stringy. I've never had like beautiful hair, but it should be able to grow at least. If you're just having lots of mystery illness, brain fog, horrible headaches, overwhelming, debilitating fatigue, if your hips and legs are sore after you walk around the block or go hiking and you know it's abnormally sore, something's wrong. And no matter what the blood tests say, you know that something's wrong. So we'll talk about the tests that actually do matter and do find the things that the blood work doesn't always find in another episode as well. Just wanted to get these symptoms out there and talk about it so that you guys can kind of take note or write down things that you're going through and remember to mention it to your doctor, which now leads me to the second part of this, which is about doctors. I went to a lot of different doctors, and as I mentioned earlier, a lot of them wanted to just push laxatives on me, and that was it. And or they would just tell me, I don't know how to help you. I think you have costochondritis, which I had that once in my life, and it was from carrying my kids in the baby bucket, and I had pulled a muscle like where the rib cage is. It's like the cartilage gets separated. It wasn't that, because these gut issues can also affect your heart and your lungs. I actually got pericarditis in early 2020, and no, it wasn't from COVID, and no, it wasn't from the shot, because I didn't get the shot. It was something related to macrobid, which was that drug I told you about earlier that gave me lupus. So you can get super bugs when you have an antibiotic resistance, and you have to really be mindful, again, of like the medicine you're putting in your body. Doctors, sorry, skipping around. I would highly, highly recommend that you get yourselves a concierge doctor. You pay them monthly, and they are working for you. You're not going to get the average 7 minutes in the room that you would normally get with an average doctor, with a regular doctor, sorry. Concierge doctors will run the tests that you want to have run. They will be the one source of truth for you. They will follow up with you after hours, weekends. You can text them, you can email them, you can call them. They're available. You're not going to get a runaround, and you're not going to never get a call back. It's not like that. It is expensive. We pay $250 to $300 a month, and I know that's a lot, but your health is paramount to anything else, right? We can't have dreams, we can't have hopes, we can't have lives without our health. And so if it's a temporary thing, I say do it, because if what you're going through is acute and you need information stat because it could be going down the path to disease that you can't come back from, then again, I highly recommend getting a concierge doctor. They're well worth the money. All right, that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.